In this episode, we'll continue to apply film to my old Jeep. Today, we're working on the hood. This part is actually the easiest in the whole series. Anyone can do it themselves. Even simpler than applying a film to a rearview mirror. Of course, there are still some key details to pay attention to. Let's get started. First, the tools you need are as simple as ever. You'll need a color change film, a temperature-controlled heat gun, a film squeegee, a film trimming tool, and a tape measure. Drill, polishing sponge, towel, alcohol, and water spray bottle for polishing. The reason for preparing this set of polishing tools is that many car owners have issues on their hoods. Over time, paint flaws or minor scratches from small impacts may appear. These small scratches and flaws are hard to notice with the naked eye. But if left untreated, applying a film directly will cause bubbles. So, you need to polish the car surface beforehand. How can you tell if your car's paint has minor flaws? If you're not an experienced car painter, here's a simple trick. Use a plastic bag to cover your hand. Then, feel your car's paint. At this point, any minor imperfections will be easily noticeable by touch. Why not give it a try on your own car? Now that I've confirmed the paint on my hood has flaws, it's time for some polishing. I won't go into details about the process steps. Interested folks can revisit episode 134 of Road Car Brothers. It covers each step in detail. After polishing is complete, use alcohol to wipe the surface clean. Otherwise, the film won't adhere properly. Step 2. Measure and cut the film for the engine hood. When measuring, pay attention to this. Leave extra space on each edge. For example, the hood's width is 140 centimeters. When cutting the film, we need to make it at least 150 centimeters long. The length is measured the same way. Step 3. Start applying the film. First, roughly place the film on the hood. Then, align it on both the hood. Okay, these 4 positioning pins. Now the film is roughly positioned on the hood. Next, we can peel off the backing of the film. Next, we need to work on each of the 4 corners. Try to stretch the film as flat as possible. This step is actually very important. Because the flatter you stretch it now, the less work you'll have later when smoothing it out. That should be about it for this part. Next, we'll need to use a squeegee to smooth out the film on top. When smoothing large areas of film, choose a thicker, softer squeegee. This makes it easier to handle. When scraping large surfaces, pay attention. The angle between the scraper and the surface. Keep it around 30 degrees. This is the ideal angle. There are a lot of bubbles here. You can just scrape these bubbles first. Alright, if you can't scrape the bubbles anymore at this point, then you can slightly lift the film. And then scrape along the film. Okay, now the bubbles here are all scraped off. After scraping the entire first large surface, we move on to scrape this large surface. And then the smaller surface below it. There's a golden line between the large and small surfaces. First, we need to scrape out the gold thread. Let's start by then, pull the film to get the gold thread out. Okay, the gold thread is out now. Now we can proceed with this. The film on this surface is scraped to the back. Be careful when scraping. Scrape with one hand while gently pulling the film with the other. This helps avoid wrinkles. Okay, the bottom surface is now fully covered. After securing the gold lines on both sides, we can peel off the top transparent protective layer of the color-changing film. Because we'll soon need to use a heat gun to shape and highlight the 2 gold lines in the middle. Then, we'll finalize the design. But if we keep this protective film on, we can't use the heat gun. That's why we need to peel it off now. First, set the temperature-controlled heat gun to around 200 degrees. Then use this thicker scraper first. Use a heat gun to warm up the gold wire. Once it's soft, we can use a scraper. Gently scrape it down a bit. This way, the gold wire gradually comes out. But there's an issue here. Because this side of the gold wire is actually sealed. So we can only scrape from bottom to top. The other end isn't sealed. This way, gas can escape from the end. For precise operations, you can use your hands. But remember to wear wire gloves. Pay attention to one detail here. Once this film is heated, it will become softer. So when you scrape it with the squeegee, don't scrape it too hard. Otherwise, you might tear Just be a bit gentler. Gently scrape it smooth. Especially around the corners of these gold lines. You can use the corner of the scraper. Slowly scrape it upward. Just like this. This step requires a lot of... Here. Okay, so these two gold lines on the hood are now in place. Next, we can use the craft knife. Let's trim off the excess edge. When trimming, keep in mind. Estimate how much film is needed for the hem. Don't cut too much. At this point, you must be aware. How much do you need to tuck under your hood? For example, my hood here requires about 5 centimeters of film to be tucked in, so the sides of the hood basically don't need trimming, just need to trim the front and back. Now we need to open the hood. Edge finishing. The edge finishing on the hood side is actually very simple. We can directly take this film. Press it all over like this. Then you can flip it over first. Just like this. But some wrinkles will appear. At this point, you can use a heat gun first. Heat up the film a bit. Then use your hands to press the film firmly onto the edges of the hood. After pressing the edges firmly, we can then slightly press the inner part closer. The same method applies to the other three of the hood. Pay attention to the inner edge of the trim. It's best to heat it once with a heat gun. This will enhance its adhesion, preventing it from falling off later. Next, we'll move on to the hood. Finishing the edges of the 4 corners, I personally recommend first, use this tool to handle it. Heat the edge with a heat gun first, then gently pull it inward. The reason for doing this is to make it look better from the outside. The film will wrap around this corner more neatly. Then, on the inside part, first, trim off the excess film. After trimming the excess film, first, press one side firmly. Then, press the other side firmly. Now, the corner of the hood is secured. The other 3 corners of the hood. It's the same process. Okay, the hood wrap is now complete.